Today we are talking about squash pests and how to defeat them, specifically squash vine borers and squash bugs. You guys already know I have literally tried every method possible to deter these guys, and every year they win. I even took a year off from growing any squash to see if I could starve them out. But this year I decided to give it one more try to see if I could finally be successful. I tried a couple of lesser known techniques, and so far it's working. Before we get into any of that, let's talk about something a lot of people say they have issues with when growing squash. And that issue is poor pollination, as you can see right here. The best way to take care of this issue is with a paintbrush. I always carry a paintbrush out into my garden so that I can pollinate my zucchini. But before you do that, you need to understand the structure of the flowers. It's very easy on zucchini to understand because the female flower has the fruit at the bottom of it, just like you see here. Whereas the male flower just has a stem, as you can see on some of these other flowers, like this one here, right here. Okay, so the male flowers, they typically appear before the female flowers, and they grow in clusters, and they have a stamen in the center, and that's where the pollen is. And then on the female flowers, that, of course, has the swollen structure at the base, which is the potential fruit. And then they have a stigma in the center, which is soft and spongy. And I'm going to show you that here in just a moment. But that is where the pollen needs to land for pollination to occur. So I'm going to show you exactly how I do that with my paintbrush. You can see with this partially open flower, that's where I'm collecting the pollen. That's a male flower. And it's not ideal to pollinate the female flower when it's not quite open yet, but I like to try to dust a little bit of pollen there just so that if I miss it when the flower is open, at least there's some pollen nearby that would hopefully settle in there. And right here, you can see, I'm trying to get closer into it, but that is an open female flower over there on the right. That one right there is a male flower you can see with the pollen on it. We'll get in there closer here in just a second, but we're going to take this pollen right there. You can see it on the tip of the paintbrush. We're going to go into this female flower. And I'm so sorry the camera was not totally in focus. But I just kind of dust it. If we can get in there so that you can see what I mean by how it's kind of spongy. Now let's get into what you really came here for. Time to defeat these demons. If you aren't aware, that is the squash vine borer moth. The female moths are responsible for laying these tiny brown eggs at the base of squash plants or on the stems. Each female can lay several dozen eggs over just a couple of weeks. And of course, those eggs hatch in about a week, and the larvae bore right into the stem of the plant. Inside the stem, they tunnel through the plant tissue and feed on the interior of the vine. That is what disrupts the flow of water and nutrients within the plant, causing wilting and often leading to the death of the plant if it's not controlled. And that is where I'd like to pick up today on how to defeat these horrible pests. There are a lot of recommendations. One of the most popular recommendations is BT spray, or you can call it Bacillus thuringiensis, I believe is how you pronounce it. I like the Monterey brand, but it is the top recommendation to either spray your plant to keep the borers from chewing inside, or to inject into the stem of the plant to kill off any borers that have already made it inside. So first I want to talk about how for many years I used a syringe to hand pick or hand dig out those vine borers out of the stem. Now, there is a lot of misinformation out there on the internet that says that you can cut a slit in the vine and pull the borer out and then cover it up with soil and it will grow new roots. I have yet to find anyone who has ever successfully done that. I've tried, it doesn't work for me. I've asked many other people and everybody agrees it doesn't work for them. So if that is something you have tried and it has worked for you, please do post a comment and let us know. But otherwise, it's not something that I recommend. So because of that, I tried something new this year that I'm going to get to here at the end. And you may have already caught glimpses of it already, but we'll discuss it further in a little bit. If you aren't familiar with the injection method, I just take a syringe and suck up some of the BT solution, and then you inject it into the stem. Another source of misinformation, I believe, is that a lot of people tell you to just inject it in the stem as a preventative. Well, the stems aren't hollow. So if you can actually get the liquid to go into the stem, you've already got a problem. Every time I have tried to inject the needle will go into the stem, but you're not going to be able to force that liquid out unless there's already a hole in there. So most of the time, if your stem is still healthy and you stick that needle in, the plunger is not going to budge. It's because the liquid has nowhere to go because it's completely solid inside of there. Now, once you do have a vine borer in there and you put the needle in, then you can inject the BT. And yes, it does kill off the vine borers. Now, let me tell you, the best way to do this is of course, you'll see like the frass, or they say that it looks like sawdust. I don't think it looks like sawdust, but it definitely looks like frass, coming off of the stem, or the stem will have turned brown or whatever. That's how you'll notice. Go to the top portion of it, wherever the top portion is. Usually your vine borer is not far from there. So stick your needle right in at that top point, and you will typically get the borer with the BT, or you'll at least saturate enough of what it's going to be eating in that area to kill the borer. I have made the mistake too many times of digging around in there too much. It's very satisfying to dig around in there with a needle and pluck that guy out. I actually find a lot of joy in doing that after they have decimated my crops. But digging around in there like that hurts your plant even further. So it's not, if you inject the BT in there and try to let your plant survive that way, possibly. I don't know though, because a lot of times whenever I'm digging around in there, I find multiple vine borers in one stem. So it's really hard to say, but they don't move very fast. That's for sure. So the number one thing that I was determined to do, since whenever they cut off the nutrients at the base of the plant, and like I said, when I try to rebury the stem, it does not grow new roots, and I have a really hard time at that point. I have seen where they recommend to wrap aluminum foil around your stems, and I have done that in the past, and it just looked so tacky. It didn't really seem to be working too much anyway, but it was also very reflective and attracted a lot of sun to the plant and caused other issues. So I'm not a fan of wrapping the base in aluminum foil. However, this year I thought, what about saran wrap? So you may have noticed that on the base of my stems, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. First, let's talk about a couple of other things that I heard that might actually help. So I had heard that companion planting with borage was a good idea. So I tried that this year. Companion planting with nasturtiums or mint, I've tried that in the past. This year I did all three in the same bed. The borage, the nasturtiums, the mint, and the zucchini, all in one bed, trying to deter. And then I also heard that if you plant a ring of radishes around your zucchini plant, it will also help fend off the squash bugs and vine borers. So I tried that as well. So I did all of these things, okay? So I planted the borage, the nasturtiums, the mint, the radishes, all of that companion planting, right? And then I also wrapped my stem in plastic wrap. Now, there's more to it than that, and I'll explain in a moment. But also, when I was going through the Master Gardeners program last year, our instructor mentioned that there are pheromone traps. I had not heard of these at that time. And so he told me to look on Amazon, and I did. And every time I looked, they were sold out. Everywhere on there was sold out. So I started asking around at garden centers and everything, could not find them anywhere. And then finally, I found some on Amazon again and got a pack ordered. And I'm about to show that to you here in just a moment. Now, it only attracts the male vine borer, and he gets stuck in there. Oh, and I have tried the yellow sticky traps. You know, I use those for fungus gnats and in my house and stuff. But I have tried that out there. None of that stuff worked for me. And I've tried the toilet paper rolls. I've tried every possible solution that anyone has ever suggested. None of them work. And we're going to talk more about squash bugs in a moment too, but those are another big issue. I don't have as much issue with them as I do the vine borers, just because the squash bugs, you tend to see them before they've done too much damage, and you can treat the plant and take care of the issue. The squash vine borer, however, once it's inside the stem, it really can be too late to save your plant unless you do what I did this year. So I did get the pheromone trap. I did catch some squash vine borer moths. I haven't really seen too many squash vine borers flying around my plants. I saw one early in the season, haven't seen one since. Squash bugs, however, I have seen a lot of this year. Now, I was gone away from my garden for 16 days, and that was an issue. When I came back, I noticed that it looked like we had a little bit of vine borer damage. And I'm going to show you a clip from this morning here in a moment. Also, I want to mention, so with the plastic wrap, the deal with that is as the vine is growing up, cut off all of your lower leaves, okay? And wrap your plastic wrap around that. Now, since this was just an idea that I came up with on my own, it wasn't anything that I saw recommended anywhere. I was nervous after the first couple of weeks because it looked like there was moisture holding inside of that plastic wrap. And I thought, I'm going to rot out my stem because it's going to get mushy and soggy or something in there. So I took the plastic wrap off and checked the stem. It was still firm and looked great. So I kind of took a towel and made sure it was all nice and dry and rewrapped it immediately so that I had no chance of any bugs getting in there. And that seemed to be doing great. So the squash vine borer issue that I just discovered when I got home was up higher. So I've got this much stem out of the ground. It's perfectly healthy. And then it's above that I've got a little bit of vine borer damage. And I really think because it's not lower on the plant, I really think I'm going to be able to salvage it this time. So I did inject some BT in there. I also sprayed with my handheld sprayer. I sprayed some BT mixture on the stem of the plant just to make sure. And then I went ahead and took the plastic wrap off so that I could really coat it good and make sure that I have treated it well. So anyway, we're going to see how that turns out. But so far, so good. Our zucchini's doing well. Okay, real quick, I want to show you these vine borer traps. And you may want to pause the video right here so that you can read this. And then after that, I'm going to show you where I had sprayed the plants with the BT solution and how I kind of poke around in there with some BT to try to kill off all of the borers that are on the inside. So after trying all these preventatives, I have to say the very best thing to do is to check your plant daily and remove the eggs. Because all in all, I don't think any of the methods actually keep the bugs away, unfortunately. But if you have a tried and true method that you rely on, please do let me know. I truly have tried it all, and I have to wonder if the bugs in my garden are just resistant. The best advice I can give is just to stay on top of it and check it daily for eggs and destroy those quickly. I hope you have learned something new today. If you are having any issues in your garden, please do post your questions below. I'm always looking for new topics to cover. So if there is something that has been troubling you, I'd love to hear about it, and hopefully I can help you out in a future video. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you want to see more garden content, check out this playlist right here. Or if you are interested in home DIY projects, check out this playlist down here. And remember, go the second mile today for someone in your life and with your resources.